Welcome to Art Appreciation. This is our first chapter that we're looking at, Chapter 1, and it is focusing on art as a human phenomenon. Whether we're building buildings or building sculptures, as the two images portray on this first slide, we are engaging in art making. If you look at the word art appreciation itself, it stems from the Latin ars ad pretium, which translates to a skill to value. So the first question becomes, in our pursuit of understanding art better, is what skill? What skill with the artist are we as the viewer valuing? Let's begin with understanding what visual art is. Visual art is primarily associated with the act of seeing. So this, in fact, is the skill we are valuing. We are valuing the vision of the artist, how the artist sees. So an artwork is an image or an object created to either express a feeling or an idea related to an experience, or to improve the circumstance of our experience on our planet. And as you know, the chapter saying art as a human phenomenon, it underscores our species' ability to make things that change our experience of nature. And so we begin with the notion of engaged vision. In the art process, what occurs is what is known as the first viewing, with the artist serving as the first viewer. The artist sees the artwork first in their mind before moving it to their hands. The audience is the second viewer. We respond to what the artist has done, which means it is active viewing. It's not passive. With our species, there are three basic ways that we as humans can see. We can see through memory, we can see through imagination, and we can see through observation. The three images you see are related to Frida Kahlo. Two are her works, and one is a photograph of herself taken at a certain point in her life. Observation is just simply what we see and how we see it. Imagination talks about potential seeing, what we might see. And memory talks about what we have seen. So in many ways, memory is about the past, observation is about the present, and imagination is about the future. So these three ways of seeing coordinate with our understanding of time. So art are images and objects made at a certain time. So, starting off, how important is visual art in terms of your very survival today? Meaning, if all the art were to be removed from the world, what would be left? And how would that impact our ability to survive? So I want you to think about this for a second before moving on to the next slide and come up with a number. 1, art is not important at all to survival. 2, it adds value but is not important to survival. 3, it's somewhat important to survival. 4, very important to survival. Or 5, vital. We could not survive even a few days without art. Think about it and come up with a number and then go to the next slide. Here is where we'd be. We would be naked in a field. We would be standing at that very same point where a collective ancestor that we all share stood. They stood naked in a field and they said no. And this is what I call the great no. This is saying, I understand where I'm at, but I think I can do better. For example, perhaps I can make some shoes. Perhaps I can make some clothing to protect myself. Perhaps I could make a shelter. And this is how art begins. And this is how art continues to this day. It is reflective of our body, our presence as a species on this planet. So we all share that same ancestor who said no and followed it by an even greater yes, which allowed us to begin creating things with the materials that were around us. Which brings us to faccio. And what is faccio? Faccio is Latin. Latin for to make, to do, to act, to perform, to cause, or to bring about. Faccio is an essential word which underscores our own species' ability to transform materials into something new that can either improve our existence or add meaning or purpose to our existence. So think about it. When we boil the word down, it's about how we use the word make, which is the English translation of faccio. So that word make is very important to our culture. We make things. If you like, you can click on David Naughton, who sings about making things. But think about, how do we use this word in our culture? How do we use the word make? Make a list. There you go, there's one. Make a list of different ways we can use the word make, and then turn over for some of my own suggestions. So here we go. Here are a lot of things that we say about the word make. We make things happen. We make fun. We make up, not break up. We make it so. We make something of ourselves. We make it happen. We make love. We make a stand. We make believe. We make do. We make it up. And we can sometimes declare defiantly, make me. So this word is extremely important to our species. It talks about our ability to make things and to really make our world. So that if we are in an environment that we are not happy with, we can make things to change it. We can make air conditioning. We can make heating. We can make a boat that'll take us somewhere else, or a plane or a car. All these different things we can do to make things happen for us, to make it better for us. So in making art, there are two basic ways that art can be made. It can be flat, known as two-dimensional, height and width, or with volume, three-dimensional, height, width, and depth. And the three basic ways we can make art is to drag things, smear things, or pile things. Drag things refer to media such as drawing. Smearing refers to things such as printmaking or painting, and piling refers to things such as sculpture and architecture and other 3D forms of creation. So, within the making of each work of art, there is two essential purposes. There's the notion of function and expression. Your book also talks about function and expression as performative and mimetic. Performative being function, mimetic being expression. More broadly, Functional art is known as applied art, also defined as craft. And the expressive arts or the mimetic arts is also known as fine art, focusing on expression. Louis Kahn, an architect who designed the very famous Kimball Art Museum in Fort Worth, wonderfully described beauty as the most expressive and the most functional combined. So understanding those two basic purposes in art making, to make something that works and to make something that says something good about ourselves, are the two basic reasons why we make art. So we start with the purpose to function, and that underscores our need to survive. Remember when I talked about time as being an important part of the way we see, past, present, and future. One of the greatest understandings that we have as a species is the understanding that at some point in our life, we will die. Our life will come to an end. And this is something that we don't know that other species have. And so that notion of understanding that at some point we will die, it creates within us the urge to survive and to create things that help that survival. So for example, a curtain. With the image that you see, the function is to provide privacy, to warm or cool a space, and to control light. The other aspect of art making, expression, talks about our need to thrive. So a curtain can also, as exampled here, add visual drama, tell a story, define a feeling, or declare an idea. So you can see with any given work of art, they can provide both the functional aspects, for example, with the curtain again, privacy, warmth, and the control of light, but can also tell a story, define a feeling, or add a little bit of visual drama or flair to a space. When we're looking at art, we're looking at two sides of the same coin. They're very interrelated and they often work off each other. So the applied arts focus on function over expression, something like architecture, and it enhances our chances of survival. The fine arts puts expression as function and uses, for example, sculpture, which allows us to thrive. And so understanding the basics of what art is and who makes art, the artist, the first viewer, and why we make art to both improve our experience and also to give a form of expression to that same experience are two very important parts of our world. And looking at art in the larger scheme of things, we understand that art is extremely important to our lives. Think now about all the things in your own world: clothing, furniture, transportation, housing, the school you go to. All of these things are art forms, and they are all created to improve our existence on this planet. This ends the PowerPoint for Chapter 1.